Alright everyone, I'm Matt, you're watching Newcastle Fans TV, and welcome to Relegation Recruitment. Newcastle Fans TV. Today I'm going to be looking at the players that went down in those relegated teams and the teams that just missed out on that playoff promotion spot to see who would be a good fit for our team if we were to invest in the summer. Well, you might think that it's a stupid idea to invest in relegated players. Clearly they're not good enough to be in the Premier League. Why would we invest in them? But, there's always a chance that there could be a diamond in the mud. Andy Robertson went from Hull to Liverpool, won the Premier League. Johnny Evans went from West Brom to Leicester, won the Premier League. And of course, Chancel Mbemba left Newcastle United and got to the UCL quarter-finals with Porto playing against Cristiano Ronaldo and knocking him out of the Champions League. So he can't have been that bad, really, if you think about it. He was all right, but he got relegated with us and we shipped him off. So without further ado, let's get into it, and we'll start at the back with goalkeepers. Now, obviously, Martin Dubravka should be really our number one this season, providing no disaster happens this summer. Carl Darlow probably doesn't want to play second fiddle, especially after the good season he had, or the good first part of the season that he had, so he'll probably be shipped off to a team where he is going to be the first choice, whether that's in the Championship or in the lower half of the Premier League or even abroad. So we'll likely see him leave this summer, which means we need a keeper to fill in that number 2 slot, someone that's capable enough to step in and fill that space in the cup competitions, or if Dubravka gets injured, to step in and fill that place. There's one lad I'm thinking of. His name's on the tip of my tongue. He plays in the Championship. He played in the Championship this season. I'm pretty sure he did. I think he got the most clean sheets in the Championship. I think he played for Swansea. Swansea's goalkeeper. I cannot remember his name. I'll have to look that up after I've done the video. But yeah, he might be a good investment. But I think we're pretty sorted for goalkeepers otherwise. Obviously, I'm on about Freddie Woodman. The lad unfortunately missed out on playoffs, losing in the playoff finals to Brentford with Swansea. Had a great season with Swansea. I think he won the Golden Glove in the EFL Championship, so most clean sheets in the season, which is very impressive for a keeper of his age, especially. He'll no longer want to be the third or fourth choice goalkeeper at the club, so we can see him potentially staying at Newcastle for a second string goalkeeper, or potentially being shipped off as well. So obviously Freddie Woodman would be the preferred choice in the goalkeeper region, just keeping a hold of him, keeping him in that second slot if we can keep a hold of him. But I don't really think we need to invest in the goalkeeper area, at least from the relegated teams and those teams that missed out on playoffs, because to be honest, there's not a lot of talent in there, in my humble opinion. It only makes logical sense if we start at the back of the pitch and work our way forward. So let's start with the defence then, and we'll start with the centre-backs, as we've already been linked with a couple of centre-backs in this transfer window already. So we'll start with someone that caught my eye in the Championship this year and has already caught the eye of Graham Jones. We know that for a fact. That is Cameron Carter-Vickers, 23-year-old centre-back, on loan at Bournemouth this season from Spurs. He played under Graham Jones at Luton when Graham Jones was the manager there, and Graham Jones also recommended that Bournemouth sign Carter-Vickers when they did. So we know that he's a big fan. I'm sure he's already been in Steve Bruce's ear about the young lad. He's only 23, can play centre-back predominantly, that's his preferred position, but he can fill in as a right-back and has done it for the Spurs youth side. And for other teams as well. Yeah, he's played for Bournemouth pretty much throughout the entire Championship season, played in the playoffs for them as well. He's only 6 foot, he's not the biggest lad, but he's really, really good with the ball at his feet. And the best thing from Mike Ashley's perspective anyway, is he is out of contract at the end of June at Spurs, so he will be available for very, very little money. So transfermarket.com has his market value at £1.8 million. That's probably less than he's actually worth, and there will no doubt be multiple clubs vying for his signature, but I think that Newcastle should be targeting him as a priority. One, because he fits Mike Ashley's brief of he's young, he's got sell-on value, he's cheap, we won't be investing too much into him if he does flop, and he brings something to the team that we are missing a little bit with players like Lejeune out on loan, that ball carrying ability, the distribution. Fabian Schär does it, he tries to do it, but he's not in the team too much. And if you think this is someone that's going to be playing alongside Jamal Lascelles, you need someone that's going to be comfortable on the ball and distribute. So he seems like the ideal choice at centre-back for me. He's my number one pick for that centre-back position. Another centre-back that we could be interested in, but would definitely be a bit more of a high-profile sign. I say high-profile, it's from a relegated side. How high-profile can it really be? But that would be Tosun Adarabioyo. He played for Fulham this season. He signed for them at the start of the season for just £1.5 million, and he was absolutely massive for them. Played almost every game for Fulham in the Premier League last season just gone, and miraculously only received one booking in that time. He's an experienced defender. He's been in Man City's academy from the age of 5 years old, and we've seen what Man City's academy produce. I mean, I won't even name some, but players that have even gone on to different clubs like Jadon Sancho, you've seen the levels that they can reach. So we know that they know how to spot a talent at a young age, and he clearly is. He had a fantastic season for Fulham. He's massive as well. He's 6'5", which could bring a much needed aerial presence when we defend, because we concede 61% of shots on goal inside our box. So he's good for blocking those shots with his long lanky legs, but also stopping the ball getting in and around those areas by heading it clear. He's a big physical presence, vocal player, led that Fulham defence alongside Anderson. Really, really good player. However, he will be a bit more expensive. He's got 2 years left on his contract at Fulham. He only signed a 3-year deal, and he's valued at around £9 million. However, he will be one that Fulham will be wanting to keep a hold of to get them back into the Premier League at the first time of asking. Fulham had a lot of loan players this season, so they're guaranteed to want to hold on to the ones that weren't on loan. So he'll be one of them. So you're going to be looking at 10, 15 million, maybe even 20 million to prize him away. So I don't think we desperately need a centre-back. We don't need to be spending that much money on the centre-back, especially if the rumours are true about our budget this season. So we don't need to be splashing out on that. But if we were to get him potentially on a loan or for cheaper than 10 million, I could easily see that being a fantastic addition to the squad. Big physical presence at the back, really could do with that. Really fantastic player, even though he did get relegated with Fulham this year. So there's another option at centre-back as well. But we'll move on to the full-back positions now, and we'll go for the right-hand side, one which is very, very desperately needed, I think, with the likes of Manquillo and Kraft not exactly being cut up for the job, and of course Jacob Murphy filling in as right wing-back for the predominant end of the season. He did an alright job, but at the end of the day, he's not the most consistent player, not the most reliable, so it would be nice to bring somebody in to fill that position permanently. One player that was at a relegated club this year, doesn't belong to them but was on loan there, is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He's only 23, like the other two lads we've already looked at. He was on loan from Arsenal at West Brom this season. The good thing about Maitland-Niles is not only can he play like a right wing back or a right back, he can also play as a right midfielder or even a central midfielder, where he played a lot of his football for West Brom this season. He's great on the ball, loves to drive with the ball, pick it up, carry it forwards, look for the forward pass. I think that's been imbued in him from the Arsenal academy. Fantastic young player, really top talent, and he looks to kind of press high, keep the ball and cut out those passes on the attack. He doesn't really like to sit back. So if we're looking to change our style from 10 men behind the ball and looking to take the game to opponents like we did in the last few games of the season, he would be a player really suited to that style of football. Unfortunately, again, he is valued very highly at Arsenal. Yes, he was out on loan, but he is a player that has played a lot of first team games for Arsenal and is valued at around 16.5 million, 2 years left on his contract as well. So if you're signing Joe Willock from Arsenal, there's very unlikely that you're going to prize two of their top youngsters away from them in the same summer. And if you did, you'd have to be spending 40-50 million to get the pair of them. So unlikely, but it would be a nice one to fill in at right back there. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is my pick. Of course, with all these positions and stuff, this is just my opinion. If you think that you know better than me, or you just want to chuck a couple names in the hat, start a discussion in the comments down below. Just comment and get a debate going. I'm arguing amongst yourselves. Who do you think from those promoted sides that missed out on the playoffs? So that's Barnsley, Swansea, teams like that, or also the relegated side, so the bottom three that went down, so Sheffield United, Fulham and West Brom. Any players from their side that you think would suit us that I've missed? If you disagree with any of my suggestions, if you watch them play in the Premier League or the Championship and you don't think they're cut out, or you don't think they would be suitable for our squad, then let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to drop a like on the video as well. It helps us out massively. But let's move on to the left back position now. Left back is a position at Newcastle United which isn't the strongest. Yes, we've got Jamal Lewis, who's yet to find his feet at the club. He's had a very poor start since signing for the club. Matt Ritchie's filled in there, and obviously has been absolutely massive since he came in, but he can't just fill in as a left wing back forever. We need to look at a serious replacement, and if it's not going to be someone like Jetro Willems, then why not look at Joe Bryan? Played for Fulham this season. Didn't play too much. He only made 16 appearances in the Premier League, 9 of those off the bench. So not a ton of appearances, but that was mainly just through rotation, and just Scott Parker didn't really pick him this season. Don't know why, because he's a fantastic little player. We saw a lot of him in the Championship. He scored the 2 goals in extra time to actually secure Fulham promotion in the playoffs, which was great from him. Got a man of the match performance, as he should. He's 27, so he's a bit more experienced than the lads we've suggested already. And as such, comes with a bit of a lower price tag as well. But also the longevity of his career. He's probably got a few good years left on him at left back if he is going to be the first choice. So it depends. Do you think he would be a good option to go for because of his age and his experience, or is it a bad option because he's not got too many years for it to offer us? Let us know in the comments down below. But yeah, as I say, he plays left back and play in that wing back role as well. He's a very attacking full back. He loves to get forward and whip balls in. He goes strong into tackles, which I really like about a player. You know, Matt Ritchie is crunching in the midfield. Isaac Hayden goes really strong into that tackles. And Joe Bryan is a similar style of player. He looks to release the ball forwards. He doesn't pass backwards. You know, we're sick of the style of play where we've got the ball, we've turned it over from the other team, and we want to hit them on the break or build possession, and we just pass backwards, and it goes back to the goalkeeper, who then punts it long. Joe Bryan is the type of player to pick his head up forwards rather than backwards or sideways. But he's a smart player. He knows how to distribute the ball to the right players to get the team moving forward. I think it would be a really, really strong signing for us, because with him not being a favourite at Fulham in that left-back position, he's probably available for quite a decent price. He did extend his contract at the start of the season until 2023. However, he is only valued at around 4.5 million. So I genuinely think we could probably get him from around that mark. Anything less than 10 million would be a fair price for him, I think, to be honest, in today's market. You know, considering we had Danny Rose on a loan who offered a little bit, but not a lot. And obviously Jetro Willems was probably the last promising left back we had, aside from Paul Dummett. No offence, Paul, I love you. But if we are looking to invest in the fullback positions, which I think we should look to strengthen both sides, I think Joe Bryan is definitely my pick for that left-hand side. Let us know, obviously, in the comments if you disagree with me on that one. Do you think he's past it? Do you think that there was a reason that he didn't get picked for Fulham? You know, do you think he was out of form? Do you think he was injury-prone? Is there a reason why we shouldn't be signing a player like him? And if so, who else would you pick? You know, I was going to suggest Rico Henry for this, but he got promoted with Brentford. He's a fantastic young player that I would have loved to have taken at Newcastle, but there's no way he'll end up leaving Brentford at the end of the season. But I think Joe Bryan is definitely my pick for that left-back position. And onto the midfield then. Arguably the position where we need to strengthen the most. You know, we've had Joe Willock on loan, who's been absolutely electric for us, and we really do need to be in for that lad, whether it's another loan or a permanent deal. I'd love to see him back at the club. However, this isn't about Arsenal. This is about players that were relegated or missed out on the playoffs. And as such, I've picked a bunch of players from Fulham. We've already had 2, and we've got another one. I think that this pick is definitely popular with Sam. I know Sam is a big fan of this lad. And I think most people, if they've watched the Premier League this season, they should be too. And that is Frank Zambo Anguissa. He was a central midfielder for Fulham. He's 25 years old, and he made 36 appearances this season in the Premier League, providing 3 assists in that time. Now, he's a very, very valuable player for Fulham, and they will not want to part ways with him. However, there will be a lot of competition for his signature, so it will be very difficult for them to keep a hold of him, rather. Really, he's a defensive midfielder. He's a big lad, but weirdly, he is really good on the ball and loves to dribble past players. He is the 3rd most dribbled player, so he's dribbled past the 3rd most amount of players. That was 91 over the course of the season. In contrast, Saint-Maximin only had 88, so Zambo Anguissa actually dribbled past more opponents than Saint-Maximin. Obviously, Maximin missed a lot of the season through injury, but yeah, it shows you what kind of player he is. He loves to get on the ball, carry it forwards, get his team on the attack, and obviously Fulham didn't have the firepower to keep them up this season. I think their strikers is where they were let down. They had a very good team. Otherwise, yeah. He signed for Fulham for £18 million, so they are not going to part ways with him for less than that. So it's going to be a very expensive signing if we do want to make it. He's valued at around 22.5 million, and I think that's definitely a fair price, but Fulham will no doubt want more than that. They'll want easily 25-30 million for him, and they're probably going to want even more than that. Like I say, he's a strong and defensive midfield player, and I think he'll be perfect alongside Isaac Hayden to break up that play, and then he's the one that can carry the ball in transition, and if Willock's there as well, those two can play off each other really well, I think, and he would be, ideally, he's my number one pick for central midfield, alongside what would have been Josh Da Silva, who obviously knocked us out of the Cup this year for Brentford, but as I say, Brentford got promoted, so we're discounting all their players altogether. But he's definitely my number one pick, though. Let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, and if you disagree, then take it up with Sam as well, because he's his biggest fan, not me. So, yeah, fantastic little player. Unlikely that we'll bring him in, but definitely my number one transfer target for this summer. I say that he's my number one transfer target this summer. He's definitely my number one transfer target in that position, but if we're looking for a more attacking midfielder, a creative midfielder, which I think we should be, alongside Joe Willock as well, obviously, who I want to bring into the club, my number one pick for that position would be Matias Pereira for West Brom. He was absolutely fantastic this season. I don't know if you watched a lot of West Brom, but oh my god, this kid is insane. He was on loan at West Brom in the Championship, so they technically only signed him permanently at the start of this season, just gone for 8 million. He brings a Brazilian flair to a Sam Allardyce team, which are just two things that just don't go together. He was incredible all season. He's a danger from set pieces. He's a left-footed, creative, unselfish, attacking midfielder. And I think he'd be a perfect fit, especially if Miguel Almiron was to be sold. He's a perfect replacement, in my opinion. He had 33 appearances in the Premier League, 11 goals and 6 assists, so a decent attacking return in a very, very poor West Brom side. Valued at just under 12 million, but he's at least worth 25 million in my eyes. He's absolutely incredible. I know I've had a go at explaining expected goals, XG, on the channel before, but basically what he has a minus 4.05 XG, which basically, to dumb it down, because I don't completely understand it either, he finishes difficult chances. So he takes on shots from outside the box, he takes on difficult chances and he finishes them off. And, you know, he obviously puts the easy ones away as well. But here's a little comparison to Almiron, where you can see that he's a lot better in pretty much every area of his attacking play, at least. I can't compare them in terms of ground cover, because we know Miguel Almiron is fantastic at the high press and loves to run around and make a nuisance of himself and get involved with the play. But that's just a little comparison between the pair of them. Another comparison is with Saint-Maximin. Saint-Maximin draws on average 1.8 fouls per game, so that's quite high. Matias Pereira draws 1.6, so he's a tricky player. He loves to have the ball at his feet. He loves to draw fouls, just like Saint-Maximin. You think when Saint-Maximin on the pitch, how many fouls we get? Matias Pereira is going to bring even more of that to the team. He's going to create set pieces in and around the box, so penalties, free kicks. He's a danger from free kicks. He scored directly this season from a free kick. He's great at creating chances. He created 39 chances, which not from set pieces, that's just from open play. 39 chances from open play, which outside the top six, the traditional big six, is the 12th most for a player in the league, which is just phenomenal for a side in the bottom three. He's, in my eyes, he's only behind Willock in terms of attacking midfielders that we need to bring in. He's incredible. He should be, if we're looking for goals, if that's our target for next season, if we want to bring someone who's going to get you goals, he should be our target for next season. But West Brom aren't going to part ways easily with him. He's a talisman for them, and he's been incredible. So it'll be interesting to see if Steve Bruce wants to bring a bit of Brazilian flair to Tyneside. But I doubt that transfer is going to happen. I really would like it to. Let me know if you're a fan of his in the comments down below. I think he's fantastic. I think the Premier League is going to miss having him in it, because he was exciting to watch. And every game that I watched, just really, really fantastic player. And if you put him, Saint-Maximin and Callum Wilson in a front three with Willock supporting, I think you're going to score a lot of goals in a season. Even if you're conceding 5 at one end, you're probably scoring 6 at the other. So maybe that's a bit optimistic, you know. I live in optimism. I'm a Newcastle fan. I fucking have to. So yeah, I think he should be our number one target in that position. But another player that could be a target in that position is David Brooks from Bournemouth. Now, we saw a lot of him in the season before Bournemouth got relegated. Not the season they got relegated, before that. He was dead young then, burst onto the scene, very impressed by him. He's 23 now. He plays predominantly as a right-sided midfielder, so like a right winger, or in that central attacking midfielder position behind the striker. Valued at 15 million, or just under 15 million. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, so he could be available on the cheap. Bournemouth didn't utilise him too much this year in terms of his Bournemouth career in total, so that's a couple of seasons in the Prem and the Championship. He's made 81 appearances for them, 14 goals and 12 assists, and in the Premier League it was 8 goals and 5 assists. So a decent return for a young lad. You know, he's obviously, it'll rack that up the more he plays and the more he gets experience. A decent little player. Definitely shouldn't be a priority to bring him in, but he could be one of those wild cards that you bring in for less money. You know, he's not a marquee signing, but he's someone that's going to bring a little bit of colour to the team, a little bit of creativity. Maybe if he plays on that right hand side, he could link up well with Jacob Murphy as an attacking wing back. That could be an option, but obviously we need support to the strikers, because if Callum Wilson gets injured again next season, we're going to need goal scoring threats, and we just don't have that at the club at the moment. Joe Linton obviously struggling to find his feet still, and Dwight Gale looking like he's heading out the door at the end of the season as well. So I think we should have signed Brooks when Bournemouth got relegated last season. I think that he was the one that we should have gone for out of that side, obviously apart from the players that we did nab off them. We could just rebuild the Bournemouth squad. We should have signed him then. I think he would have been a great addition, because he wasn't used in that. Wasn't used a lot in the season that they got relegated. So he would have been quite a cheap little buy, and we could have cultivated his talents in the youth team. Well, not the youth team, but with those young talents that we have in the side, could have learned alongside them. A couple of negatives about him is he doesn't really track back. He's known for kind of just not being lazy, but just drifting and staying out of the game, which I don't think is what we need. Obviously, Steve Bruce likes a team that grafts, or so he says, a team that tracks back, a team that gives 100% every game, and I don't think he's going to be the player to do that for us. He's still a good option. It would be a safe, non-risky option, a safe bet, which is transfers that we're used to with Newcastle by now. So it wouldn't be a surprise to see him come in. It wouldn't be a bad option, definitely not, but it wouldn't be the best. Obviously, Matias Pereira is my pick for that. But he's definitely another option as well. I mentioned Matias Pereira from that West Brom relegated side. Another West Brom player that I'd be interested in bringing in, technically a West Brom player anyway, is Conor Gallagher. He was on loan from Chelsea at West Brom this season, another one of those loanees that got relegated. And honestly, a really promising young talent. He needs a haircut, but he looked really good when he played against us. He was a nuisance, draws a lot of fouls. Still only 21, still learning, still a kid. So probably wouldn't walk into that first team. But I think he would be a great option as a rotation player and off the bench as well. He made 30 appearances in the Premier League for West Brom this season, scoring twice and assisting twice as well. He's technically still only an under-23s player at Chelsea. Yes, he signed a professional contract, but he hasn't made a professional debut for them. I think I'm right in saying that. He's still valued at around £10 million, which is quite impressive. But we know he's a dangerous player. He draws a lot of fouls. We mentioned earlier the comparison between Saint-Maximin and Matias Pereira, drawing 1.6 for Pereira and 1.8 fouls for Saint-Maximin per game. Conor Gallagher draws 2.1 fouls a game, which is baffling, considering you think how much Saint-Maximin gets his legs kicked. But yeah, draws a lot of fouls. He's a box-to-box midfielder, likes to attack in transition, fills those gaps. He's very, very aware of gaps between the defence and the the midfield, so he can fill those gaps, support the striker, carry the ball, distribute the ball as well. One notable thing about his play, he adopts a really high press. He loves to press the ball high, a bit like Miggy, which is only useful if the team presses, if we're being honest, because you see Miggy running around pressuring the ball, but then if the defender's got an easy out ball because the rest of the team's not pressing, it's useless. He's just wasting his energy. So if Bruce wants to play high intensity attacking football, high pressing football like we did towards the end of the season, at least in the first halves of the games, Conor Gallagher would be a really, really good option. His awareness of space, like I say, is fantastic, and be a nice young option as well from that West Brom side to bring in. So, and Chelsea, he definitely won't get in that Chelsea side, especially with the amount of money that they spent last summer and undoubtedly will spend this summer as well. So they'll be looking to ship him off either on loan again or just get rid of him permanently and cash in, get some cash in the bank. So definitely a viable option for us. That's probably one of the more likely ones that we can see happening. Obviously, if they've loaned him out to a West Brom side last season, they'll probably think look a little bit higher for him this season if they are looking for a loan, and we're one of those clubs that's just a nudge above West Brom. Well, we should be a lot higher, but it's where we are at the moment. So yeah, a nice sensible transfer, that one for us, and I'd like to see him brought in this summer. That would be a really good option for us, I think. But as I say, let us know in the comments down below if the hair puts you off, the long blonde locks. If you think that's too much of a stupid hairdo to be signing, let us know as well. And if you just don't rate him, then obviously chip in your 2 pence down below. And if you think he's the best thing since sliced bread, let us know, because then that validates me and some of my research. So it all helps towards our content. So yeah, comment down below. But without further ado, we'll move on to the most exciting part of the field, the attackers. So the bit that everyone loves to see every summer, the marquee signing, the striker that's going to fire us into the top half. We'll get onto the attackers, so I'm going to include strikers and attacking wingers in this as well. There's only a couple that I'm going to throw in there as well, but that's just how I'm grouping them. So we'll start off with one of those attacking wingers and another West Brom player. Maybe I shouldn't pick all the West Brom players, they won't give us all of them. But this one is Grady Diangana. So technically a West Brom player, he's not on loan, he did sign permanently for them, which was a massive surprise. If you follow any kind of social media at the start of the season, when he signed for West Brom permanently, he was on loan with them beforehand, you'll have seen the uproar from West Ham fans, and especially Mark Noble, the captain of West Ham, publicly said on Twitter that he was disappointed that the board had decided to sell him because he was that promising of a talent. He's 23 years old, plays in a similar position to Saint-Maximin on that left-hand side, drifting into a false 9 or a 10 behind the striker. And he's just really exciting to watch. He's very similar to Saint-Maximin in his style of play. He loves to size up players and go past them. He's very tricky, and he's got a very low centre of gravity and a quick turn of pace. He's a very exciting young attacker to watch. Unfortunately, he's been a bit injury prone, which has kept him out for a lot of the season. So we've not seen a lot of him in the Premier League this year, which was very, very disappointing. And to be honest, if they'd had him all season, I genuinely think West Brom might have stayed up. That's how much I rate this kid. The only problem is he's signed a massive 5-year deal at West Brom, and like I said with Fulham as well, they had a lot of players on loan, so they're probably going to want to keep a hold of the players that technically belong to West Brom. They're going to want to hang on to their talents and aim to get back in the Premier League at the first time of asking. So we ain't going to get him cheap. He's valued at just over £10 million. However, like I say, with that massive 5-year contract and then wanting to hang on to it, it's going to be 25 million quid. At least you want to be paying for him, which honestly maybe it's not worth it because of the injury problems that he's had. However, the talent that you're going to get with him is incredible, and the sell-on value as well. We mentioned Mike Ashley earlier. If he is going to invest, does he want to get his money back? Is he thinking that far ahead now? He wants to sell the club. He's still young. He's got sell-on value if he does kick on. He reminds me, I watched him when he was kind of breaking through at West Ham. He reminded me a lot of Rolando Aarons when he first broke into the Newcastle team and how exciting he was to watch. I remember the game against Man City where he just tore them apart down that left-hand side. So he reminded me a lot of him. And he's not afraid to take the ball, take it past his man and have a pop at goal, which is really what we need in this team. We need more players like Wilson with confidence to just take the game by the scruff of the neck, like Willock, just take it to the opposition, make them work for it rather than us having to fight for our lives. In the Championship, when Diangana was on loan with West Brom, he made 30 appearances, 8 goals and 6 assists. So not the best, but that's a goal contribution almost every other game, which, to be honest, is a decent return, especially for not someone that's technically not a striker. So it was a really good return from him, and honestly would be one of my preferred options bringing in. However, it's highly unlikely that we're going to get him in. But someone on the other side that we could look at bringing in that would potentially be a bit more interested in a move to us is Ademola Lookman. Now, I say that he'd be more interested in a move to us because he wants guaranteed minutes. He's at that stage in his career. He's 23. He's bounced around a few clubs. We saw him break through the ranks at Charlton. Really exciting young player. Got a big money move to Everton. Didn't really break through the ranks there. Ended up going to Leipzig on a permanent deal, and they've loaned him back to Fulham for last season, where we saw him have a decent season. Looked like a really creative player in that Fulham side, but there was just no one there to finish the chances off that he created. So he's not going to get in the team at Leipzig. It's just a statement of fact. I really highly doubt that they're going to let him break into that first team. They're a very successful club in Germany. I don't think he's quite at the level for challenging for Champions League spots. Although, you never know. A few years we could be up there. But yeah, he did sign a massive contract with them when he signed. So he's contracted at Leipzig till 2024. However, Leipzig are notoriously a selling club. They've sold their best 2 centre-backs already this transfer window. One to Bayern Munich and one to Liverpool. They sold Timo Werner last season. They just, if they can profit off their players, they profit off their players. They just do it all the time. So there would be no bad thing to put in a cheeky low bid, low ball them for Lookman, someone that's not going to get in their side, not even going to get a look in on the bench probably for them. He's valued at around 11.7 million. We could look to get a loan deal or get him in permanently. I reckon you could even get him for 10, 15 million quid. And the reason that I'm so keen on him is because he's a really exciting attacking player. Like I've mentioned with Diangana, he's really wants to get his head down, run at players, create chances. Outside the traditional big six, he actually created the 5th most chances from open play of any player outside the big six. He created 42 chances from open play, which is massive. When you've got someone like Callum Wilson to finish them off, you think 42 chances, he's going to be scoring 10 goals, you'd hope. He'd take 1 in 4 chances, Callum Wilson, in front of goal. So he can play on either wing as well. Can Lookman. He made 34 appearances for Fulham this season, scoring 4 and assisting 4. But like I say, Fulham really just did not have the firepower up top to finish off those chances that he was creating. Like I said before, he dribbles a lot with the ball, like Saint-Maximin. A massive 2.4 dribbles per game. That's successful dribbles as well. That's not even attempted dribbles. 2.4 successful dribbles. Comparing that to Joe Linton and Almiron, Joe Linton dribbles makes a successful dribble 1.2 times in a game, and Miggy 1.1. You combine their dribbles together and you don't even get close to Lookman. So he brings a real attacking force to the side, someone that wants to get forward at all times. And I think we could really use a player like that, especially if Ryan Fraser's coming back to fitness as well, if you want to play two wide wingers that love to get forward to support the striker. So a really exciting talent that we should definitely be looking at, because he's definitely going to be popular in the Premier League with those sides in the bottom half looking to get him on loan or on the cheap. Well, we're done with the attacking wide players now. Let's move on to the strikers, and we'll start with someone who impressed me a little bit playing for West Brom. Yet again, we've not included a single Sheffield United player because they're all rubbish. But no, this lad signed for West Brom in January, I believe, on loan from Galatasaray. He's called Diangana. I'm not sure if you watched him play. He had a blue shaved hair cut at some point. He's a very distinguishable figure on the pitch because he's a big lad. But yeah, they signed him in January to get them out of the relegation scrap. Typical Big Sam, bring in a big striker, stick your head on the end of some crosses, try and bag us some goals. And he did, to be fair to him. 16 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists, and he did have a lot of goals ruled off for offside. Man, me and Papi Cisse doing that. But yeah, he's a bit on the older side, so I'd be signing him as a number 2 striker, someone to come off the bench and add a little bit of sauce to the game, or even play up top with Callum Wilson if we needed to chase a game, so Callum Wilson can play off him. He's valued at around 2.7 million, so probably the lowest valued player that we'd be looking to bring in up top. But he is contracted in Galatasaray till 2023. He's a really dominant aerial threat, and he just hunts inside the box. All of his chances come from inside the box. So we saw this season that we were getting down the wings and the wingers were picking their head up and there was just no one in the box to hit. And until Willett came along and was like the late man charging into the box and scored a few headers to the end of the season, we're just whipping crosses in with no target. Even when we were playing Joe Linton and Callum Wilson, there was no one really there to hit Joe Linton with his bloody 50p piece head, clearing the ball even though he's trying to score. So yeah, massive guy that hunts inside the box, really big aerial threat. He took 25 shots in his time at West Brom and 12 of those were headers. So that's almost half of his shots came from headers. But he is a bit two-footed as well. 9 of his shots came from his right foot, 4 from his left. But all of the surprising thing was the chances that he created for other players, all of them came from his left foot. So he's when the ball gets played up to him, brings it down, he's capable of going one way or the other. He's unpredictable, and he's a cheap backup striker that could play really well with players like Saint-Maximin and Wilson, who are going to make the runs to play off him. So if you get the long balls up to him, he's going to be an aerial presence to win them. He impressed me playing for a West Brom side that didn't do much. So I think he'd be a good backup for us. Let me know if you think he was rubbish when he signed for West Brom. He really impressed me. I think he did the job that Andy Carroll thinks he can do, or he used to be able to do. But he's definitely just going to be a backup striker, in my opinion. The guy that we should be looking in to bring in as not number 1, no one's replacing Callum Wilson just yet. The guy that should be bringing in as almost a second striker to play with Callum Wilson, or even to challenge him for that number 9 shirt, is absolutely electric. His name is Daryl Dike, and if you've watched any game in the Championship this season, you will know who he is. The lad is a bloody freight train from America. He was on loan at Barnsley this season from Orlando for the second half of the season. He's only 20 years old, and my God, this lad is talented. we should be definitely looking to, if we don't bring him in, somebody will, and he's just going to terrorise the Premier League. He's incredible. He's open to a UK move. He's already said this, you know, like, yes, he plays in Orlando, that's where his home club is, but he's absolutely open to moving to the UK. He loved his time at Barnsley. They do have an option to buy him, but it's not an obligation. Orlando can turn that down. And I think it's probably a bit too pricey because they didn't get promoted anyway. They'll probably turn their noses up at that price anyway. But yeah, he just absolutely incredible. I mean, for those of you that play FIFA, which I imagine is quite a few of you, he's the second strongest player in the game, second to only Akinfenwa. And these stats, if you don't play FIFA, these stats are based off real life findings. They do tests on these players, strength tests, pace tests, and obviously watching gameplay as well. This lad is a unit. He's not the tallest, but he is a freight train. He'll just run through you. And for a big lad, he's skillful and he's a good, fantastic striker. For Barnsley, he had 7 goals in 13 starts. Overall, it was 9 goals in 19 games. He's an aerial threat in the box. He scored a lot of headers and he's just got explosive pace. He'll size you up, he'll get the ball at his feet, but when you blinked, he's just gone past you. He's incredible. I suggest if you haven't heard of him or watched him, go on YouTube and after you've watched this video, search him up, have a look at some of his highlights. Before he came to Barnsley, he was playing for Orlando, like I already mentioned. He made his debut. First 3 games he played for Orlando, 3 goals, 2 assists, and 1 Player of the Month. Absolutely incredible player. I don't know how anyone hasn't already agreed to buy him because he's insane. And Barnsley fans will tell you that he just fired them into the playoffs. They were unstoppable when he was playing. He's only valued at 4.5 million because, you know, he plays in America and played in the Championship. However, likelihood is minimum you're going to be paying for him is £20 million. And I would say probably even more than that because of his age, because of his talent. He's going to be firing the USA national team into some serious success if he can keep fit. He played up front alone. He played in a pair of strikers. He can do anything. The lad is incredible. I can't gush about him enough. We should absolutely, if we want another striker in that's going to score a few goals for us this season and is one for the future as well, Daryl DK is the name to remember, and he rounds off my relegation recruitment, all the players that I think we should sign. I did miss out a couple from Brentford. Obviously they got promoted, couldn't look at them, and there were a couple players unlucky to miss out, namely Jamal Lowe from Swansea as well. I think would be a good option going forwards, but I don't have time to get into his play style or anything. But like I said earlier in the video, if there is anyone you think I've missed, if you disagree with any of my picks, if you completely agree, whatever you want, get involved in the comments down below. Start a discourse with each other. Who should we be looking at from those relegated clubs and those clubs that missed out on the playoffs as well? Because there's a lot of talent in those sides, and realistically we need a lot of investment this summer because it was too close for comfort. I know we finished 12th, but there was a lot of the season I was convinced we were going to get relegated, so we need some serious investment. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my picks, and of course, as always, don't forget to like the video as well. It helps us out massively, and subscribe to NFTV Extra as well as Newcastle Fans TV. But thanks for watching, guys. You've been great. I'll catch you in the next video. Newcastle Fans TV.